All right, so I think this is high time for us. We've given just enough time for everybody who was willing to join us. So let us start. And well, right at the beginning of the main part of the webinar, which is going to be about teaching grammar, and I'm sure you're all aware of that because you, I think, when you were registering, you were reading this synopsis of what's going to happen here. I'd like to ask you guys, what is important to you personally when teaching grammar? Again, in the chat boxes, can you please put in short, very briefly, what is important to you when you teach grammar to your students? And just generally what you believe is important when teaching grammar. I see some people typing it. So I understand this is not a question where you answer with a short yes or no. So it could take a couple of moments for you to put it, but just briefly, I'll try to figure out what you meant there. Okay, so practical application, right? So the application of it then in real life. Okay, thank you, Tatiana. To cope with fossilized errors. Oh, I bet it does take some time, right? With lots of practice and just for it to come accurate with our students. Drilling. Oh, that's a nice thing. So drilling some certain grammar. Well, I think you mean pronunciation, right? When you teach grammar, some like connected speech drilling. Maybe this is what you meant. Ability to use it in everyday English, okay? Right, and then practice, good, and time limits. Oh, you like to limit their time when working on grammar, when practicing grammar? That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. Okay, thank you very much. Well, you've mentioned actually some of the things I have there on this slide, which I'm just about to share. So for me, teaching grammar means that it must be really practiced a lot, right? To avoid the students making mistakes and errors and slips there in the future, and to make sure they use grammar accurately enough. Then when using it in speech, I think a lot of practice must happen first. Yes, for us as teachers to be expecting them to use it correctly. Another thing is, again, what you were writing, grammar needs to be meaningful, right? So the students need to understand in what situations, under what circumstances they could use this or that grammar, right? In what context it might appear, in what situations they could use it. And then today, in the modern world, what I believe is very important is that the grammar could be easily digitalized. What I mean by that is that I'm sure that almost all of you, or the majority of you, is in constant search of some practice activities and practice exercises and worksheets and whatnot online in the internet. It would be just shame not to use it today, right? Because the internet is so full of different activities that you as a teacher could use in the classroom. And well, for you, it could automatically mean lots of extra work in searching this information and then marking it, right? But today, I'm going to share with you something just fantastic enough to let you forget about, well, time you spend on the internet searching for some extra material for your students to be able to practice grammar. And actually, I'm going to share something that needs no marking after that. Can you imagine it? And actually, what I'm talking about is this wonderful tool that is called MyGrammarLab. So this is the platform that I'm going to share with you, and all the benefits, or some of the benefits that come with it, that will actually comprise all the things that you mentioned in the chat box and all the important things that I believe in when teaching grammar. So basically, this will introduce to your students and, well, to yourself as a teacher, the world of grammar online. Okay. And well, it comes in 3 different modes so to say. So there are 3 different codes, each of them standing for 2 separate levels, A1, A2 code, B1, B2, and C1, C2. So these are the codes you could use to access, well, a lot of information for your students, a lot of grammar for your students online. Okay, so the agenda for today, well, it's quite short, actually. There are not that many things that we will go over. However, some very important things in knowing what MyGrammarLab is. The first thing is we're going to check what's behind the code, because, you know, just the code itself leaves a lot of questions like, okay, what do I get with the code? What do my students get with it? So this is one part of our agenda today. And another one is to see how you can set it all up online. So if it is the code, and if it gets you access, and if it enables your students to practice grammar online, then we need to understand some basics behind how you could start it all as a teacher with your students. So this is the agenda, and we're going to have a look at what's behind this, well, top levels C1, C2 there. So MyGrammarLab C1, C2. Okay. Well, before we start, before we dive into everything that's there, and before I pour and shower you with all the good stuff that comes together with the code, there is one question I'd like to ask you at the beginning, is this. Well, remember your last class, remember your last lesson, last grammar lesson. What was the topic you were teaching to your students? Again, in the chat boxes, can you please put it? What was the grammar topic you were teaching? Reported speech. Yeah, quite a difficult one, right? It comprises basically all the tenses, so many tenses, and how they are used in reported speech. Past perfect, one of my favorites, I'd say. Causatives and present tenses, so a variety of them. Again, yeah, very useful. We use lots of present tenses in daily life, so they're very, very valuable there for students. And order of adjectives, that's always a confusion with my students, right? How to put adjectives in the right order. So, well, quite a topic there. Conditionals. All right, good. I like conditionals as well, and mixed conditionals. Yeah, top level, very good. Possessives. Inductive facilitation on present forms. Oh my God, that sounds quite a nice lesson there. Okay, future tense was good. Right, so actually, I'll reveal you in just a second what grammar I was teaching last with my students. And actually, some of you mentioned it in the chat box, but I'll do it with the help of a video, with a very short video clip. So obviously, while watching it, as soon as you understand what grammar I used this video for, right? What grammar I was teaching using this video, can you please again put it in the chat box as soon as you understand what this video is about? And again, some of you did mention it in the chat. All right, so a short clip, 25 seconds, very, very brief one. Let's do it.
Have you ever gone to a party at the wrong time? That's what I did last weekend. I arrived about 8 o'clock in the evening, but there was nobody there. The party had finished, and all the guests had gone. I looked at the invitation again, and I realized that I hadn't read it carefully enough. I'd seen the word party, but not the word lunch.
Okay. Narratives, past narratives, and past perfect, and present perfect versus past. Yeah, there was this present perfect right at the beginning of this video, right? But generally, it was most about past perfect and past simple. Yes, and yeah, I see many of you writing past perfect and past simple. Good. And actually, this was the situation. I hope you've never experienced something like that. That would be a disastrous situation for me, when you just appear, right? Well, then at the party, well, fully dressed up and, well, with your empty stomach, ready for some, food there, but come on, you haven't read it lunch in the invitation, so that would be a shame. But a situation, well, that's possible to happen, right? This is a context where past perfect and past simple could be used, and this is a very clear situation for students. Yes, they could imagine it and they could understand, okay, in this situation or here we use past perfect for this and that. Okay, good. So if we come back, what comes behind the code in C1, C2? So these are the 20 modules that students get with just, well, registering this code online. So there are like, they start with prepositions and different adjectives and tenses and future forms and modals and reported speech and passives and conditionals. Well, I bet that almost all the topics that you've mentioned in the chat box come here. And we, well, obviously we won't have time to have a look at all of the modules. However, what we will do with you is we are going to pop inside one of the modules there, tenses. That's module 5, tenses. Well, you've mentioned a lot of tenses there in the chat box, well, teaching them lately, and well, past perfect. This was one of the tenses I was teaching. So let us have a look at this module and see what's behind it, what students learn and what students practice working on tenses here in module 5. So actually, this is like, well, this much information comes in one module. We are now going to have a look at each of it one by one and see what's the logic behind all the activities that come in this module. So everything starts for students with a diagnostic test, and I find it just invaluable when you start teaching any grammar topic. Because, well, I'm sure that you would agree with me, especially if we are talking about students level intermediate and above. Well, they have had already some experience with using tenses. So isn't it a fantastic thing for us as teachers to check their entrance level? Yes, to see, okay, what they have already experienced, if they have anything that they know, all right, by just the beginning of the module. So this is one of the purposes of a diagnostic test, right? To be there. And what I tell you, this is not a placement test, obviously, because the placement test contains all the different topics. This diagnostic test is only about a variety of tenses the students would encounter, which they would practice later in the module. Actually, there are 70 diagnostic test sentences. Well, just a huge number of them to be tested, for students to be tested at the beginning, right? And to see how well they are doing before they start the module itself, I mean, the core units. So let us have a look at a couple of them. Again, please, well, be ready with your typing skills there and with your fingers on the keyboard. So the children in the garden all morning, no wonder they are so tired. So, and here comes the drop-down list. Well, have been playing. I see that some of you, it seems like, started typing or were ready with their answers even before the drop-down list appeared. But this is what it comes with. I mean, this diagnostic test with a very quick drop-down 3 options for students, which is very handy for today's, well, young adults. So they just quickly choose, have been playing, and off they go, and they decide which one is the correct one. Good. Let's do one more, a quick one. Which one is your English teacher in the photo? She's the one next to the head teacher in the front row. So she's the one who's sitting or who sits. Okay, right. Okay, by A, probably there is no A and B here, but I think by A who's sitting, yeah, obviously you mean who's sitting. Well, I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, you understand this is no language check from me here, because I'm sure that you're more than knowledgeable with all these tenses here, but it's just to show you the procedure how your students might be working with a diagnostic test. A very quick one, 70 different items to be checked well, at the beginning of them getting into more practice and more learning. So the two main benefits of a diagnostic test is on the one hand is to give students some confidence, actually, right? Because I'm sure that among 70 sentences, there would be quite a few that the students would do correctly. And this is for them to just check, okay, great, fantastic. Well, I remember something. I know some of the things, and this is just to build up their confidence on the one hand. And on the other hand, is for us as the teachers to check, okay, all right, this is where they're doing fine. Maybe I won't concentrate their attention much on present, simple, and continuous because they're doing it with no big problem. But this is something they still need to work on. So these are the benefits for both students and teachers here with the diagnostic test. And there are not many resources that have diagnostic tests integrated in them, and MyGrammarLab is one of them. Okay, let's move on. So after the students have been diagnosed on their initial knowledge about tenses, well, the core units are coming. So here are these 4 units from 19 to 22, which are about different tenses, obviously. Let us have a look in one of the units and see what students get with it. So let's do it with the last one here, which is past perfect simple and past perfect continuous. Okay. So the first thing students get when they open this unit are grammar videos, then practice exercises and listening activities. So what about grammar videos? Do you recognize this lady? Have you seen her already today during this session? Well, this is just the question that requires no answer, obviously, because you have, right? I started the main part of the session with her, and this is where the video came from. So the video I used to introduce past perfect and past simple is taken from here. And actually, this is the video that we could 100% call grammar presentation, right? So with the help of this video, we introduce the idea of these 2 tenses to our students right at the beginning of this unit. So let us check. I'll play you the continuation of this video just for you to be able to understand what comes next after the situation, right? Because the video starts with some context, what comes next. So let's just see what's there.
For talking about the past, we usually use the past simple. I arrived about 8 o'clock in the evening, but there was nobody there. But look at the other verbs. They are in the past perfect tense. The party had finished, and all the guests had gone. The past perfect shows that these things happened before I arrived.
All right. I'm not going to play it, obviously, until the end. There are 2 or 2.5 more minutes to go. It's just to give you a quick understanding of what comes next, And I'm sure that, well, you have been thinking about that, yes, that there should be some explanation after the context had been presented, had been done to students. So a short situation, well, very context-based with some ideas that could happen in real life, plus the explanation of this grammar based on the examples taken from it. But what else? Well, if you have, well, various videos when teaching. I'm sure many of you do use videos when teaching. What else you could do with it? Well, there are a couple of things that you could do with it. One thing, if it's got this sample situation, like, and past perfect is here as well, you could go for some concept checking questions with your students, right? So you could pose it like I did at the beginning, right? You could play just the situation to your students and then put the sentence on the board, or just drag their attention to this sentence with past perfect. And you could go for some CCQs there, right? So, okay, the party had finished. So did the party start before she arrived? Were there any guests when she arrived? Did it finish before she arrived, and stuff like that? I'm not obviously going now to teach you how to use concept checking questions, because one thing I'm sure many of you know what CCQs are and how to make them. Well, if you don't know, there is lots of information online where you could check how the concept works, or you can attend some of our short online teacher training courses to learn more about that. But basically, if you've got the context and if you've got the sample, why not check how students understand the meaning of this grammar by using CCQs based on the examples provided? One other thing you could use the videos for, and this is how I very often use it with my students, I mean this type of video, is to set up some flipped classroom lesson with your students. So basically, what I would do, right, sometimes, especially if I understand that students might know this topic more or less all right, I would I would let them watch this video at home. So the situation with the explanations and the rules and the examples, and then the practice activities, some controlled practice and some further teaching would happen in class, whether you teach offline or online, doesn't matter much here. So they could watch it at home first, intake the information, try to learn it on their own, and then practice it in class. One other thing is, well, the students could come up with their own examples. If they've got the situation, right, and if it's meaningful and if it's true to life, they could do it. For instance, could you please write the situation again in the chat box? Could you please write a sample past perfect sentence, maybe with something like that happened to you personally in your lives, while I'll be taking you through the situation I experienced. Well, in this photo, this is almost me running behind the tail of a train. And actually, well, there was one person with me back when the situation happened. It was Olena Michodou, my colleague. So we were about to have one of our working trips, and it was the day when the debate in Ukraine took place, just 1 year and a half ago, or 1 year and a half ago, and all the metro stations had been closed before we arrived at one of them, at Pechersk, if I'm not mistaken. So then we spent some time running hard and using the metro, but when we finally got to the railway station, the train had already gone. I mean, so we even didn't see the tail of the train like the man here. So, and then we spent some wonderful 9 hours traveling to Zaporizhia on the bus. 100 real situation. Well, we didn't tell it to our colleagues straight away. So because, well, we didn't just do our time management fine. Okay. So this is how the students, yes, knowing the real situation, could come up with their own samples based on what they have there. Okay. So let's move on. So this is just one of the videos. This is just one of the videos that students do in this very unit, in Unit 22, Past Perfect, Simple, and Continuous. There are 2 more videos. So in total, there are 3 videos with meaningful situations and explanations here. So a lot of work, a lot of grammar presentation that your students could do. Well, after they have done the diagnostic test and after they have gone through 4 core units, well, here comes, or actually not 4 units, but 1 unit. After they have been presented, right, to grammar, well, practice comes. Practice makes perfect, as we know. And here, this is a fully context-based practice. So a couple of activities that are text-based, so that means that the students would be taken again through some meaningful situations where they could use this for their grammar and they would practice it by this. So let us have a look at this picture. Okay, so if these activities are context-based, could I ask you, what do you think this text is about? Again, in the chat boxes, just judging by this picture. So there is this red carpet and lots of lights and a hole. What could that be? What could be the context for this text? Just if you have a look at this picture. Yeah, this could be some kind of an award ceremony with a red carpet. The Oscars, yeah, why not, Maria? Some kind of a festival, again, Oscars ideas. Catwalk for fashion models. Yeah, catwalk is a very nice word. And events like ceremonies. Yeah, well, I'm sure you would have all come up with, well, the answers that could be fantastically right for this one. This one is very close. This is film premiere, so this is what you were writing about, the Oscars, film premiere, right? Different events and ceremonies. Catwalk for a fashion show is all right as well. All your predictions work fine anyway. So this is a film premiere, right? And in this activity, the students need to complete the block with past perfect, simple, and continuous again. Right, so if they were introduced to what it is, then practice obviously happens with it. So let us do a couple of gaps there as a sample. So we arrived at about 8 p.m. and fans had already been waiting, right? So outside for several hours. There is this time period. What about gaps 2 and 3? Again, in the chat boxes, no language check, just to let you feel the context and how it works in context and how it comes as practice for students. It's very nice sometimes, right, to put on your students' shoes and to feel what they feel when they're asked to do something, right? So number 2, we had been staying. Some of them had been staying. Again, we have since the morning. We've got the time period there. Okay, what about 3? Had been standing, had been staying, had been standing there. What about 3? What about gap 3? Gap 3 is a bit more complicated. I mean, for your students, obviously. Yeah, had been rolled, number 3. So this is like past perfect passive here, which is not a piece of cake at all for many students over there. And I'm sure you've got students who experience some difficulties there as well. So you see, well, even when typing there, I didn't fit into the gap all right, because what I need to write is quite lengthy. However, when working on the platform and when working with this activity online, well, the gaps go adaptive, so to say. So they adapt to the length of what your students fill in, of what they write. So they would experience, they would have just enough space to fit all what is needed into a gap, and it comes nice and neat there. All right. So the diagnostic test is done. Well, the theory with some explanations with grammar videos is also over. The practice activities are there in students' pockets. What comes next is a progress test. So the progress test comprises the information of all the core units of units 19 to 22 that our students have worked on. And well, the idea of a progress test is very straightforward, and I'm sure you understand why it is there. So it is just to give the feel of for students how they're progressing, and if they have covered the gap from the diagnostic test, yes, by working through the core units of this module. So it and they're again context-based, so they come in short texts. And again, the students have a drop-down list or a drag into options there. And after the progress test, what comes after it, I love very much about this platform. And this is something that is really, really unique about it. And they haven't seen it, and I haven't seen it before in any other resource. After the progress test is over, the students have the opportunity to even catch up with some flaws that they had in the progress test. So there comes some catch-up exercises. So even if progress tests show that there's still something that needs to be practiced, well, then some students need more practice with some of the things there. Here come catch-up exercises. In here, how they look like. So these are going to like 30 catch-up sentences with the drop-down list, and the students being able to quickly go over some things that need refreshment, right? And some need those that need to be recycled and reinforced before they end up with this units, before they end up with this module. So catch-up exercises is something very, very unique and something very, very valuable for the students to have there when learning and practicing grammar. Okay, so if we go back, you remember at the beginning I showed you quite a long list of different things that come within one module. If we just put it schematically, it would look like that. So they do the diagnostic test with a lot of sentences there for them to check where they are, at what level they are, and just to give them a bit more confidence that they are doing just quite fine, and even at the beginning of the module. Then come the core units with practice, and they've got a lot of video presentations and context-based practice activities in them. Then comes the progress test and the catch-up exercises for the students, even at this stage, to be able to cover some things that haven't been perfectly well done by them. And after that comes the exit test. I'm not going to show you what the exit test looks like, because it's very, very similar to diagnostic test there. So a lot of sentences that cover all the issues, all the grammar that comes in the core units and in the progress test and in the catch-up exercises. But the exit test is what you really have to, is what you as a teacher and students would compare to the diagnostic test, right? Which is the entry one and the exit one. Okay. So if we just, put into numbers what module 5, just module 5 tenses has for your students, that would look like this. So there would be 19 grammar presentation videos, 14 context-based practice tasks, 70 diagnostic sentences, 60 catch-up sentences, progress tests, and exit tests. So just a lot of work for your students, a lot of practice, a lot of input by means of grammar presentations. This is, remember what I was saying to you at the beginning of the session today, that no longer do we need as teachers to go online and look for, well, the activities and exercises and worksheets and videos that could come handy for our students when learning and practicing grammar. Well, they could find it all just behind one code, just on one single platform, collect it all together for them. And when working with the platform, basically, when working with this code, there are two options you could go for as the teacher, and there are two options you could use this code, okay? So the first option is you could organize group work for your students. So if you work with larger groups of students, you could register online as a teacher, you could create an online class, and you could attach all the students you work with to this class, and you set all these activities as practice for your students, and they accomplish the tasks, and the results come ready for you in just seconds after your students have completed it. So you could organize it as group work for your students, and I believe that many of you or most of you are working in this mode, right, with groups of students. However, there is another option your students could use this code for, is just to give a lot more and very thorough practice with grammar here during their self-study. So your students could use the code even without you creating an online class, but just having access to a lot of activities and to a lot of opportunities to practice grammar online, just in the way of a self-study resource. So either a group work or a self-study option that you could use this code for. I'd like now to briefly take you through this mode, group work, because again, I believe that many of you do teach groups of students, or at least even if you teach one student, but you would like to set this all up as teacher and student. Yes, you would like to assign tasks and receive the results thoroughly analyzed. You could do it even with an individual student or with two students if you've got smaller groups, no problem. So, but here, let us agree on a couple of things here. Since it is an online platform and since it requires you some registration and some creation and whatever, let's deal that by now you have successfully registered on the platform as the teacher, created an online class, and attached students to it. So why I put ticks here? Because this is not the aim of this session. My aim today is not to teach you or to show you how to register online or to create the class and stuff. We would have other webinars for it. My aim is to show you that if you experience no technical issues, and we give a lot of support actually to you with that. One of the supports we have is a lot of videos that are recorded in Ukrainian by my colleague Yulia Kiyanets. She is just in the process of updating some of them because there have been a couple of changes to the platform. So she's updating the videos at the moment, and I'm sure that that in the nearest future, some of the videos are going to be updated by her. So thank you, Yulia, very much for that. So this is one type of support we give you, the videos with the screens recorded with that answer all these questions: how you register, how you set it all up, how you create classrooms, assign activities, and whatnot. Plus, we do some Zoom trainings and some Zoom consultations if you need that. So we give a full support just for you not to worry about all the technical things. So these things are done. I would show you just quite quickly how the process of task assignment takes place. And my aim to show you that actually, when you have set it, when you have assigned the task for the third, for the fourth, or for the fifth time, it happens just in a blink of an eye. with no problem at all for you as a teacher. So let us imagine this is the group of the students I am teaching, and they're using MyGrammarLab Advanced, and the group is called MGL-A1. Well, you call it whichever way you want it. And this is, again, the unit, well, module 5 that they are about to start with me, right? And the diagnostic test, as you know now, comes very natural at the beginning of this module. And this is the test I'd like to assign to my students at the beginning of module 5, okay? So this is how the platform looks like. And you can clearly see here, right, the name of the group, the module, the diagnostic test to your right, and the button or the tab, whichever way you call it, assign there. So these are all the tabs you basically need to use to assign the activity. So what happens after you click this assign tab? First thing, you need to choose the students you'd like to receive this task. You can choose as many students as you want, from an individual student to all the students in your class, right? So you could follow this individual approach by all means. After that, you need to choose the due date, so the date when your students would must have it ready. And then finally, you need to decide how many attempts it is reasonable for your students to have. For instance, if grammar is quite difficult, I would probably give my students 2, maybe even 3 attempts to do it. First thing, you know, it just prolongs the time of your students working on grammar at home. For example, well, it would never happen with a paper worksheet or with a paper workbook, so to say, right? Because they write it once and they come to you with only one option there. Here, the platform gives students a couple of attempts, or you could give them a couple of attempts, basically, to improve their results, right? To work on their mistakes, to self-correct and to self-analyze, which is one of the best features of the platform, I believe, and I use it every single time. If the activity or if the task is very, very easy and you think students shouldn't have any difficulties and any problems there, you give them 1 attempt and that's it. So you could always vary your approach. And there you go, the task is successfully assigned. So all in all, this is a 4-click process. You choose a task, you choose students, you choose the deadline, and you give the number of attempts you think is fair enough when assigning this or that activity, and that's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you set the activity up for the 10th time, it takes you literally 15 to 20 seconds to do that. Very, very easy. And obviously, all the results come with a grade book. So not only it gives the result of your students, but a full analysis of how they've worked online, how much time they spent there, right? What their strengths and weaknesses are, what the common error is for the whole group. Well, how well they did during their first attempt and during their last attempt. So much analysis that you get together with it. Again, my aim is not here today to take you through all the data you get. Some other webinars will deal with that, but you get a lot as a teacher. And actually, if talking about some deeper look into the platform, I'd like to promote, so to say, a series of webinars that we start on the 19th of October. And it all starts with the Beginner's Guide to Blended Learning. And then we'll have a pro version for proficient users, obviously, together with Julia Kienet. Again, Julia, thank you very much for that. So, but starting with 19th of October, you could register for a series of events done by my colleague Natalia Michnenko. So she's going to show you what My English Lab is, the benefits of using it, and actually she's going to use a very real sample, her own son, who has been using My English Lab for quite some time there. So she experienced it as a mother and as a teacher, just looking at how her son is doing working with My English Lab. So you have the QR code here and the link. And Yulia, can I ask you please to post the link in the chat box as well for our colleagues to be able to register for these upcoming webinars. So please join us and learn more about My English Lab. And just in short, just a quick summary. Thank you, Yulia. You've got the link in the chat box. So just as a quick summary of the benefits of MyGrammarLab. So these are obviously, the students get access to a lot of practice of grammar anytime, anywhere. Because one thing I haven't mentioned about the platform, that it works on any browser. So your students and yourself could get access to this platform either from your smartphone, your tablet, laptop, computer, whichever device that has access to the internet, and using the browser there. Then tons of activities online collected in one place. Well, forget about searching for it on the internet. It's just behind one scratch code on one platform. Everything is instantly marked for both, actually, not only for the teacher, but the student gets the result of their work in the blink of an eye, just instantly. As soon as they press the submit button, they've got the results there for them. And obviously, the autonomous learning, the students being able to work on their own their mistakes, to self-correct, to self-analyze. This is just a fantastic thing to happen, and it gives a lot of flexibility, and it gives a lot of work for your students on their own, even without teacher help